Aloha Cupcakes. Today we are working with the Dago Pro Series lightsaber. Now this one is it is the scrolling equivalent to the pinstriping brush that doesn't look the Dago Pro. You know what? It's the scrolling brush. This one has got some miles on it. As you can see, the handle's supposed to be white, and in comparison to a dragonfly, it's a little short, stumpy thing. It's what, half an inch shorter? It matters. And you know what? I'll show you why. So first thing about this brush is that it is the identical fibers that you will find on the Dago Pro Series brushes, just in a scrolling form. Now it is a lot shorter than your normal scrolling brush, and it's a bit shorter than even your pinstriping brushes. So this thing will pull into some very tight corners and some very sharp details. And while, yes, you can scroll with it, that's what it's for, I use it a little differently. And part of the reason for that is because when I'm doing designs like this, I don't normally do them on a canvas board. I mean, when I do these videos, I do it on a canvas board or a piece of plywood or whatever junk I have around the shop. But typically these type of designs where they're these, well, this, I will do this on light fixtures for motorcycles. I do this on the top lids on any given like saddlebags and the fairings and those caps that go over your handles. Like the little shell parts, whenever I have any of that stuff, these are the kind of designs that I do on them. And brushes like this make that a whole lot easier on me, because they do turn very sharply. They pull out to a very sharp, fine line. They're really easy for me to pull a consistently thin or thick line without me having to repalette and pull out a different brush and really try to rethink my stuff, so that I can really spend a lot less time working. Because ultimately when I'm working on parts like that, you're working with like 5 or 6 different parts from a motorcycle. And if they're off the bike, fine. It's not really that big of an issue. It's pretty easy. You have the luxury of being able to put it on a working surface. But when it's on the bike, being able to get into those tight little corners with a brush that I can dial back all the way to the very tip of the handle and still have the same kind of brush control. And I'm pretty confident with maintaining that because of the way that this brush maintains its shape and structure. So even when I'm pulling some of these thicker lines and I'm pulling into it, they're still not coming out super thick like they would with, say, the dragonflies. Those are a squared off tip and these are a very sharp tip. And as long as you have a rough idea of where you are with the brush, you're going to get a consistent line out of it. Dago is very thoughtful when it came to that part of the design with these things. So especially for guys who work like I do, where I have all kinds of weather constraints and just there's a trillion other weird conditions working whenever I'm working. And the problem with me is that I started taking on more bikes than I do cars. And ever since then, it's like I needed tighter details. I needed smaller lines as opposed to longer lines. And yes, I still do the long line stuff, but I have other brushes for that. So when I'm working on those things, those little smaller objects, this is the brush for that. Now, the tip on this one, because of the way that it has a lot of flex to it, but still kind of snaps back into shape almost immediately, it does swing a little bit wider when I'm pulling the thicker lines. So you do have to watch on your consistency, especially when you're drawing out to the end of the line. And what I mean by that is, like, a lot of times I pull from a thicker line to a thinner line. And when I'm pulling into that thinner line with this brush, it tends to taper off and you can see what almost looks like sketch marks in the end of the line. So sometimes I get to go over it a couple times. Sometimes I have to reduce it a little extra, which currently what I'm working with is the Alpha 6 McCarrick Black and a little bit of hardener and a little bit of reducer. Not like a couple of drops of each. I didn't go too heavy with this one because this is a canvas board, and trying to get consistent lines on a canvas board is already its own struggle. And if you overwater it, or if you tend to liquefy the paint down too much, what'll happen is that it starts to fill in all the little squares that are in the canvas board. So you just have this weird, smudgy, smeared out looking, I don't know what that is. So I did it a little less reduced than I would if I was painting on like the hood of a car or something like that. I would definitely add a bit more than, because you got to go a little extra with these scrolling brushes. But I will say that this one is very consistent. With each line that I pull, I almost know exactly how each one is going to pull. There's no unpredictability with it. So it's a really quick learning time when you're working with this one. Like if you were to pick this brush up and start working with it, you'll be pretty confident with this one probably by your 5th line, honestly. I mean, you might even be able to just sit there and play with it on the palette and have this one pretty dialed in. There's not a whole lot of a learning curve on this one. It's very straightforward, and once you kind of have an idea about your hand positioning, you're good to go with this one. It won't paint the lines for you, though. You still have to do that part. Sorry. I mean, I know there's people out there that are doing this using tape. I honestly thought that we ended that back in the 90s, but I guess not. So, and that's not fine lining tape, by the way. Fine lining tape is a guide that you use when you're doing sidelines. Now, I will admit that this brush has been in my possession for a very long time. I have a few of them, but this particular one, part of the reason why it's so worn out is there's this magical substance called turpentine, and it's definitely done some damage to this brush, and I can see that when I'm pulling some of these shorter lines. So it's okay to buy new ones. Dago will not stop you from buying new ones. I mean, I imagine if you buy like 30 of them at a time, he might like hook you up with like stickers. I hope he would hook you. Hey, he hooked me up with stickers every time I bought anything. So yes, he should give you stickers. And if not, you should demand stickers from him. Hey, what is cool stickers? Also, if you've never met Dago, I would highly suggest you go out of your way to just meet him and see what kind of a deranged lunatic he is. It's probably my favorite thing about him. So all in all, great brush. I absolutely love it. I think you should try one. Till the next video, stay moist, my friends.